Hello everyone. Just going to give you a little bit of information on the one tool you'll need for your homework. It's just this one extra thing, and then the rest of it is just combining this with things you already know. And this new thing is masking. So masking is basically setting a different outline for any, picture or image that you have. So for example, I have this picture here of Picard, and maybe I want it to kind of reveal itself on screen, right? Like I want it to kind of it's called a wipe transition technically, but I don't want it to just show up bang. I want it to kind of like slowly peel out like this. Well, you would use a mask for that, right? Like you don't want to cover it with something and then reveal it that way because you might have things it's coming out over. So the way we do this is I've got this, just square, and I'm going to animate its shape. We haven't really dealt much with shape tweening very much, but I'm going to use this transform tool, and I bring the white dot all the way to the edge here, and I bring this basically off the screen. There we go. Right, so it's tiny, it's not tiny. And I right click and I say shape tween. It should be green. And it's a lot like classic tween where you set the beginning and end and then tween it. But instead of motion, it's for change in shape. If you try to use a classic tween, it'll just like slide across the whole bar will slide across the screen and won't make any sense. Right? So right now we have this. And what it's doing is it looks like it's covering up this image. But if we set it as a mask, not unlike Photoshop masks and things like that, then what it's going to do is this image is only going to show up where this pink box exists. So if the pink box exists only partway across the screen, then only this section of the image will show up. If the pink box exists across the whole screen, then the entire image will show up. And once this becomes a mask, this pink box will vanish. You won't see it anymore. So the way we create a mask is, you can see I've got my two layers here. Ignore the third one. The picture is the one of Picard, and the mask is this purple box. On the mask layer, like the layer that's just the shape you want to use, right click and say mask. Now a few things happen. One, the box disappeared. Two, these layers lock themselves. And three, you can see this is kind of underneath this, right? It's a subsection of this layer. If I scroll backwards, if I scrub backwards through the timeline, that exact same motion that the box was doing is now revealing the image, right? So anywhere where the box does not exist, the image does not exist. If I unlock this, the mask goes away. In order for a mask to function, both layers must be locked. I think that's because Flash cannot, it can process the mask, but it can't process the mask changing. So for example, if for some reason I needed to accelerate this box, let me lock these. I'd have to hit F6 for a keyframe. There we go. If I wanted to accelerate this box, which this needs to be over here for this to work. There we go. If I want to add that, I have to make these changes first and then lock it again. And now that change will be there and it slows down, which looks hideous, but there you go. Let me undo to get rid of those extra keyframes, right? So Flash cannot handle changing how the mask works and masking at the same time. So it has to lock everything. So if you're working on this and you're like, the mask went away, make sure you lock both these layers, right? So that's how you use a mask. Now your homework is about transitions. There's 3 different transitions you're going to work on. But how is this a transition? Because right now there's nothing and then there's this. Well, what if there was something else first and then this showed up? So that's what this third layer I have here, this background layer. So this is an image that exists at first, and then this mask I have that shows up, it's going to transition, right? That's a wipe transition, to this picture of Picard. He's reacting to this terrible, terrible set of circumstances where you have 49 layers in an After Effects file. But this is a transition, right? You have one thing, and now you have another. And your homework, the 3 different sections that are all very, very related. Um, the funny thing is that the second one, the handwriting one, is actually what we had here, right? Nothing, and then this shows up. It's not a transition, it's a reveal. It's and they have you revealing text. And this is going to be very handy in your guys' final when you're having maybe text show up in time with music, things like that, right? So it's this shows up. The first one, so you may actually want to do the second one, the handwriting one first. And then the iris transition is essentially this idea where you start with first, a first image, and then a second one shows up. Only they use a circle. That's why it's an iris transition. That's for anyone who knows cameras, that's like, the iris is the circular thing that lets the light in. So they have you transitioning away from a picture of a girl. And then the third one has nothing to do with transitions at all. It's using masks to create an interesting spotlight effect where you kind of reveal the word spotlight. But these are all using masks to different effects, and I want you to make sure that you use, I'm going to provide you guys with the files in the email, do exactly what it says here, because it's really important that you learn these tools, and then there's going to be a future assignment where you can kind of plug in your own stuff and do your own thing and have a lot more fun with it. But some of you are going to get this real quick, but sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to get this to work with all the right steps. And I really want to make sure you guys, are getting all those steps. So do what it says in the book with the images it's using. And then later on, you guys are going to have a lot of, chance to do a lot of fun stuff with this. And if you have any questions, please email me.